Fellow Nephilim, we've come a long way since the release of Diablo 3, and you guys have been there for all of it. The release of Diablo 3 was also the beginning of my YouTube channel and subsequent Twitch channel. I've made a lot of friends in that time, including the two awesome guys, Leviathan and Nineball here, but all good things must come to an end. Do not worry, Westmarch Workshop will live on. I, however, will be taking a step back. While I've enjoyed my time on this podcast, I don't feel I can give it the attention it deserves. Recently, I decided to go after a career in game design, and as a genuine min-maxer and overall no-lifer, I don't like to half-ass things. This is something I've always wanted, and so I'm taking a chance and giving it everything I have, which unfortunately means giving up other projects, such as this podcast. However, I'm not going anywhere. I don't want to lose contact with any of the amazing gamers I've met, and I'm sure I'll still be firing up my stream from time to time. I'll make sure to include all my contact info in the description of the YouTube video so you guys can stalk me. Westmarch Workshop will live on through the ages, or at least through the weeks, as it goes along. It's not going anywhere. Keep watching Westmarch Workshop with Nineball and Leviathan here.
I promised I wasn't gonna cry.
Hey man, like, I'm not trying to be no tough guy or nothing, but I'm saying, like, the words you said, like, really hit me in my heart and stuff, you know what I'm saying? Like, I felt kind of way about that, you know?
Yeah. Sorry.
Feels like the end of an era.
Yeah, it's been a year since we said we were going to start the show.
I think it's been a little bit more than a year than we said we were going to start the show.
I guess you're right.
I don't know if we ever talked about that in the beginning. We must have, but this was like when was our first episode?
I think it was like March. It was after Reaper of Souls came out, wasn't it?
It was either afterwards or a little bit before, I think. But
it would have to be after, because the intro music is music from Reaper.
Oh.
Yeah, but we had that prior to.
We have secret access to a special file.
Okay, episode 1 uploaded on April 2nd. So there you go.
Well, a week after.
Yeah.
Ah. Yeah, we'd been talking about it for almost 6 months at that point, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much, because I think we started that conversation like the October prior to that. But then even back then we wanted to do like a 3-person show, and we had someone that we were talking with, and then the schedules didn't work out. It took forever to get back with us, and it was this that way, and whatever. And it was just difficult going through and getting it on. Then when we actually wanted to go and get started, it was Christmas, and we figured, well, we should wait. And then schedules got conflicted again. We just didn't, after the holiday break, we weren't able to get back together with it until I think it was almost like prior to the launch party, we started talking about it and actually wanting to get things together.
Which is funny, because that's when I met Leviathan for the first time, unbeknownst to us that he'd be joining the show.
It was fated in the stars.
Yeah.
Of LA.
There's no stars in LA. Have you looked up at night there?
Yeah, seriously.
Just smog. That's all.
Mm-hmm. They're all at the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
In the past few years, I've moved to more rural areas, so I've been seeing more and more of the night sky, and it is something that I have missed, because I grew up in like a small country hick town once we moved to Florida, and there was no streetlights, and so I've missed the night sky when I lived in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, I've forgotten about it living here in Vegas. The lights kind of drown out the stars.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm not good at doing multiple things. I got to be honest. And anyone who used to, like Leviathan used to watch my stream, he knows, as well as a lot of other people, that's the only thing I did back then. I'm really good at no life in it, which Leviathan is also pretty good at, as we've seen since the season started. But I'm not good at juggling multiple things, and this Leviathan and Nineball know I've been going back and forth on this, because I love the show and hate to leave it, and I don't want it to like detour me from getting to talk to a lot of the people that I've gotten close with, like not just like Leviathan and Nineball, but also all you guys that are in chat right now and some more. So it was really hard because I haven't been really into Diablo for a few months, and I have been getting more and more into game design. But eventually, I decided if I'm gonna go for game design, it's a really competitive industry, and so I'm gonna go 100% into it, and just like streaming. Then if it doesn't work out, I know that I gave it my best.
That's right. I can definitely get behind 100% all-in ventures, because that's what I'm about, that life. So you gotta, if it's something that's super important to you, if it's something that you develop goals for and you really can see yourself flourishing under dedicating yourself to it, I'm all for taking the necessary time and the proper amount of time to really give it that hard push.
Yeah,
I like those hard pushes.
Hardcore life.
It is something that is kind of like, I can understand that, the all or nothing mentality, because that's kind of how I am. If I ever try to just partially devote my attention to something, it just doesn't happen, like, at all. I'll just be like, oh, I can work on it tomorrow. I don't have time now. It's like I could put an hour on it. Well, maybe the day after.
Yeah.
So.
They say you lose like 25% productivity when you switch tasks. I don't know how that math works out, but I've heard that. But that's definitely true for me. I procrastinate a lot when just trying to decide what to work on. Easier if you don't have that decision to make.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's actually, isn't there something to that when people, I think they say it about multiple famous people now, but they only wear like one shirt or one outfit because it takes away one less choice they have to make, so they can focus on being creative and getting their stuff done.
That's Doug Funny's way of life.
Yes.
It's the Doug Funny theory.
Yeah. I get all of my life advice from Doug Funny.
You could get most of your life advice from Doug Funny. It's back when Nickelodeon was good.
Yeah.
Oh, amen. Gotta go chase that patty mayonnaise.
Yeah, Doug Funny, Clarissa Explains It All.
Pete and Pete.
She explained a lot.
Pete. Yep.
Pete.
Salute your shorts.
Yeah. Salute your shorts. I was gonna say that.
Oh, yes. Did either of you watch Hey Dude?
Hey,
yes.
Dude.
Okay. Yeah. There's so many people that I know that used to watch that show, or that used to watch old Nickelodeon shows, but hated Hey Dude. I was like the only person that I used to know that actually liked that show.
We're getting derailed so many times already.
Was this a Diablo podcast?
Yeah, right. So should we do our 3 weeks in gaming?
We could do that.
Yeah, I guess so.
We have a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Who would like to kick it off? Well, Archon, since you're leaving,
Okay. Wait, was you saying I go first or I go last because I'm leaving?
No, you go first.
Okay. Yeah, so I was not here for the last show, so it's been 4 weeks, and I'm trying to decide where to start. I'm going to start by telling you about my new favorite genre of games that I had never played before, and that is deck building games. And if you've never played a deck building game, I have one for you, so don't worry. Just wait till the end of this piece. I wanted to get more into board games, and so that's what I asked for Christmas. And I got this game, Dominion, classic. And that's I think one of the first deck building games. If you don't know what it is, you build your deck as you play the game. So you use currency, you buy cards, and your deck becomes bigger and better and whatever. Dominion was awesome, so I went out and I bought 5 more deck building games. Got a Marvel one, a Blood Bowl one that's based in Warhammer universe. That was my first Warhammer experience, even though it was very un-Warhammery. Yep. Anyways, the other ones don't matter because I found the best one. It's Star Realms. And everyone needs to play this game. It's made by White Wizard Gaming. They're 2 Magic the Gathering pros, so they know what they're talking about when it comes to card games. And it's only $12 on Amazon if you want to buy the actual cards. But you don't have to. You don't have to because you can download it for free on your phone or your tablet or the computer, and then it's just $5 if you want to play online, and you do. You want to play online. But you can try it out first, campaign, whatever, it's free, and then when you decide that this is the best game ever, because it is, you can pay $5, and then you can challenge me. Because the cool thing about it, mobile game, you can take 48 hours per turn, so you can just have a bunch of games going on, like Leviathan used to be addicted to Words with Friends.
Oh, God.
Be just like that. Have a bunch of games going on at once. So again, Star Realms, download it right now. It should be downloading on your phone right now. If it's not, start it. And then challenge Archon Wizard. No the. Just Archon Wizard. The wouldn't fit. So that's what it is. And yeah, I will play everyone who challenges me. And I'll give a shout out on my Facebook if you beat me. Because it's awesome. Anyways, sorry. That was part one of my 3 weeks in gaming. Part two was I finally started learning Unity, which is a game design program that I've been putting off, and I really regret putting it off now because Unity is crazy easy to use and it's super awesome, and I guess that was part of my push into like really deciding to take it seriously.
I have to interrupt you for this moment just to say that you found your second Unity.
Finally, I found my Unity. I hadn't even found my first Unity, so.
Oh, there it is.
You know, I never realized the irony there. But yeah, I played Diablo for a long time trying to find just one Unity.
Little did you know, you just had to step away.
That was much better than what I was going to ask. And my question was going to be, do you feel as if anything that you've learned through the StarCraft 2 editor has helped you in any way with learning to use Unity?
Yeah. So my first introduction to programming was in Flash, because I thought that Flash was a good way to make video games, and it's not. It's a horrible. Don't use Flash to make video games at first. It's just horrible. And that was really confusing. And then I've been using the StarCraft editor a lot the last 2 years, and it's written in C#, which is what I'm writing in now. And yeah, just having that like basis of knowing what everything means, and then actually starting to code, it's made coding like way easier. And
I have another thing for you too, very quickly.
Yes.
So you're talking deck building and you're talking Unity. Do you know what other super popular famous game was made using Unity?
Hearthstone.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So you're in good company.
Yeah. I was thinking maybe I should start playing some more Hearthstone, and because maybe someday down the road there'll be another associate designer position open or something. Who knows?
That'd be pretty smart.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But sorry to interrupt. Just a cool.
No, yeah, that was pretty much my 3 weeks. I've been going through this textbook. I'm on page like 600, and I'm super addicted, and I can't wait to start making games. And maybe, if I'm lucky enough, some of you guys can help me playtest some of the games on stream or something when I'm finally to that point.
I love playtesting things.
Mm-hmm.
I would be down for that.
Cool.
Just let us know.
I will volunteer myself to be the stereotypical beta tester that will go through, test the game, and leave zero feedback.
Just say hated it.
Just talk about how much that I play this beta game, and stream it, and talk about it to try and get popularity and notoriety. And yeah, I will take that upon myself to be that guy for you.
Shit. I'll be the other guy that's on your forums like, how come I don't have beta access yet?
Yeah, every developer needs some of this, so I appreciate it. Yeah, no, beta has become synonymous with early release somehow.
It's true, because it goes from like closed beta to open beta, and then there's no more wipes, and it's like, well, that's the soft release, you know?
Yeah.
So not getting access can actually be a big deal sometimes.
Yeah, true story.
I wonder why and how that happened. I guess maybe as we've moved towards the free-to-play model, it's become more of an issue.
I think there's so many indie developers now, and getting people into beta is just like good publicity for your game.
Mm-hmm.
Like especially with like Kickstarters, that's just like one more thing you can offer. Buy your way into beta.
Or just, what Blizzard has been doing with both Hearthstone and Heroes of the Storm, that they test out the monetary function in like the beta. So they have to be able to give you something back for it, or at least in some of those games which are highly repetitive, they have to give you a reason to want to continue to play, because that, the experience or the gold that you're earning will then carry over into the live game, so that way you don't feel as if you've wasted all this time and then have to go back and do it all over.
Yeah. And if you're Blizzard, you pretty much finish the game and then you call it alpha.
Seriously though.
But yeah, that was about it for my 3 weeks. What about you guys?
I'll jump in if you want, or
Sure.
would you like to? All right. Um, Diablo, of course, more and more Diablo. It's been getting to the point where I go on these weird like binges of playing and then these binges of not playing. Like the last 2 days, I haven't played at all. Like I've not logged. Well, that's not true before today, but Monday and Tuesday, I didn't log like a single hour. I kind of logged in just to see what the clan was doing, talk to people, and then logged out. Like I couldn't bring myself to run rifts. So I feel like the charm of season one wore off somewhere between the end of 2014 and beginning of 2015, and we can talk more about why that's even more the case in a little bit. But I mean, I was having a lot of fun doing off-class stuff because I said a couple of shows ago, one thing that I'll probably change in season two is playing a more diverse set of classes early on because I did so much Crusader that by the time I really needed to be pushing like the high grader rifts and stuff, it kind of felt chore-ish at that point. And then opening up to the Demon Hunter was a nice relief from that just because there were different carrots to chase over there. But maybe the most significant thing from my weeks in gaming was that I finally geared up a barb after having like tons and tons of excess strength gear. I mostly just did rifts on the Crusader and then went on the barb and gambled up Raycor's set. Mostly because I wanted to see what it was like now, since they're going to be changing it so much going forward. And it's amazing. Like it's kind of, I want to use this segment to just implore people, if they don't like to experiment outside of one or two things, if they like to specialize, like really try the other classes, just because they do some things that your class just cannot do. Like I could not believe the trash clearing speed and just like the way that you could group up mobs. I thought my Crusader play was super efficient, but this Raycor thing is just like a whole different story. So it was really cool to experience that. And also climbing leaderboards there too. I had a couple of goals, getting Demon Hunter and Barb into the top 100 of the leaderboard, and my Barb is at 53 right now, so
Wow.
accomplished that for that.
Yeah.
They're ridiculous. How long did it take you to get the Raycor set?
It was very quick. I've been getting really, like, whenever I gamble on other classes with doing this, like, blood shards on Crusader and gamble on the other class, like, within the first set of 500 shards, I'll get at least one set piece that I need. Like, I'm feeling like that's probably on the side of lucky, but I think that just shows how integral Kadala is to assembling those pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does seem lucky.
Yeah, as much as we love to hate her, she actually does, bring pieces of gear that we need to fill out our set rather efficiently.
Haters gonna hate.
I'm just gonna shake.
True story. But yeah, that's. I'll just admit too that I killed my Demon Hunter today. That also happened in my weeks of gaming.
Yeah.
He enjoyed it too much. That was funny.
It was time.
Did you hear the news today and you just had to get some anger out?
I did. It was kind of like I heard the news and I was like, I need to push my Demon Hunter because everything's about to change anyways. Like this, because I mean, and this is why one of the reasons. I mean, their set is going to change so drastically when the next patch drops. I was like, it's going to be night and day from gameplay. So I might as well utilize the set as well as I know it right now. And see how far I can climb. But I got into a 38. I was like way too overzealous, and I pushed into into the fog of war, which is like the worst thing you can do in hardcore, because it was just more enemies waiting for me rather than safety.
Nice.
It is what it is, though. It's weird because that was the first non-Crusader death of the season. I killed 2 Crusaders earlier, and it was weird how like disconnected I felt from it just because it wasn't a Crusader.
It wasn't a real person.
It wasn't a real character.
It's just a Demon Hunter.
I feel the same way because I played Crusader when I played console version, and I just felt like I was cheating on the wizard.
You really get those like loyalties, right?
Yeah.
It's a funny thing.
I think I'm a wizard for life.
For life. Got to get that. What are those called? License plate.
No, yeah, license
yeah.
plate. What are they called? It's funny. Just wizard. Wizard's probably taken, but I guess I could always try. It seems like it would fit.
Wiz for life.
Wiz for
With
life.
a Y.
Yeah.
That's it from my side, though.
All right. For me, I actually this holiday break I did play quite a bit of Diablo, more so than I have been the last couple months. I hit my season goal of Paragon 300, so that was nice.
Nice.
Next season, season 2, I do want to try and hit 400, just up it a little bit, just trying to devote more time into the game.
Nice.
So like season 7, you're going 900. I assume
Yes.
it's gonna.
Hey. But some of it I played solo, but a lot of it I actually ended up playing with people from the clan. Just going and having fun and chatting. That's one of the things that I really enjoy. Playing in a game like Diablo, even though you can't have like 50 people running around the screen at the same time like you could in a raid, it still is nice because it's more of like a close knit thing that you're all right there and happening. And when something bad happens or something crazy happens, you all just kind of have that oh shit moment that you can share and chat about. So I just kind of like that little that close knit communal aspect of it. So it's whenever I play lately, I've been trying to group up with people from clan and just have fun together.
Nice.
Besides that, my WoW guild, we are now 5 of 7 heroic. I know we're some new. We play to have fun, and so that does mean taking around some dead weight just because we enjoy their company. But and then really the only other thing is my my Warhammer Fantasy League is finishing up, and I got second place going into the playoffs. So I got a bye this week in the first round of the playoff season. So I'm taking this weekend off from playing to hopefully catch the game between the 2 people in my bracket that I'll be going up against, whoever wins that match, and just kind of develop strategy from there.
Yeah. So do you always use the same army? Like, will you use your skeleton archers in the next game too?
Yeah, you typically have. Well, for me, being a new player, I've only been in the hobby for about a year. In fantasy, I only have one army, and then in 40k, I'll only have one army. And it is kind of expensive, so it's not exactly something that you can easily jump and have multiple armies of. But there are a lot of people that have been playing it for a while that have 3 or 4, if not more, armies that they will go through and play. Whereas there'll be other players that have been playing for 20 years and they only have one army because, hey, this is my army. That's the only thing I care about. I just like playing the Empire or Blood Angels, and then that's it. So yeah, I've been sticking with the Undead Legion here for this entire season, and
So
looking for.
Are there strats where people might show one army and then you think that's what you're going to see, and then they bring another like as a counter? Or
Some armies are flexible enough in order to do that. Others, aren't. Kind of like Wood Elves. If you're not going to bring a ton of Glade Guard and Wade Watchers, basically like a whole ton of archers, you're crazy. What are you doing? You're doing it wrong. Whereas an army like the Empire, they can run just a whole bunch of pistolers or crossbowmen, or they can go completely balls to the walls with cannons and steam tanks and hellfire batteries and missile launchers and all those other types of stuff. So there are some armies out there that can actually swap up their playstyle from game to game.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it makes me want to get into it. I just don't know if I have the money.
Yeah, you can get by depending upon if you find something like a league that starts up, or even just playing casually. You can just say I just have 1,000 points and just play like 1,000-point games, which you can do with like a starter box. For most armies, will get you at that point. As you tend to go higher, you will kind of have to pick and choose certain models that you might have to pay a little bit more for. But yeah, it's something that you can build on.
Interesting. All right.
Pretty much sums it up for me.
All right. Well, it's good that we got some news. Well, good for everyone but Leviathan. I'll tell you why. But good that we got some news last second, so we have something to talk about this episode.
Yeah.
3 weeks and almost nothing until just recently.
That's true. Like the only thing we had really going in that was noteworthy was that we kind of had a target date for the end of season 1. Since they're not super committing to it, but they did give us a post about what to expect when season 1 ends, and then tucked right into like the second to last paragraph of that post was that the season looks like it will end on February 3rd, but cautionary. This is maybe subject to change. We're not quite sure if we'll hit that date, but it seems like it will stick.
Standard Blizzard disclaimers.
Indeed.
No. Although it does seem to be more often than they expect that it doesn't turn out how they hoped.
Yeah, I don't know. Usually, when they announce a date or something along those lines, they're only announcing it. Even though they give themselves that leeway, they only will say it when they're 99.9% sure. Nine. But for them, it's like, it might kind of maybe be on this date because we're not 100% certain, because there's a 0.0001% chance something might mess up. And of course, the news that we had, break, obviously everything big comes out right before a podcast. So that's why there hasn't been any big announcements, is because we haven't had a show in 2 weeks.
That's true. You can blame us.
True.
Yeah. So Leviathan, I'm confused, because if the next season started February 3rd, that would mean that the next patch would be coming out like on this next Tuesday.
Right?
You would think not, though, right?
Yeah, that's one of those biggest things. And I was actually chatting on Twitter with one of the guys from Diablo fans, Monday, when he noticed that all of a sudden the download servers went live, and a patch got deployed to them that mimicked all the information from the PTR. It was just kind of like, wait, they just announced the end of the season. What's going on? Why is all this stuff getting patched in now? And it just led to a lot of head scratching. Like, why would they release the patch before the season's over? That doesn't make any sense.
Right. I feel like if you're thinking clear-headedly, right, like take your feelings out of it, take your biases out of it, what would seem to make sense would be that if you're going to change anything that would be significant enough to say that the playing field is different or the rules of the game are different, that would take place in a section of the game that does not relate back to what the current standard is. So if you want a more worldly example, take the NFL, take football. If you're going to change, which they did, I think maybe 2 or 3 or 4 seasons ago, they changed the line where kickoffs take place from, because they noticed that many players were getting hurt when they were doing kickoff returns. They pushed it back so that there would be more touchbacks. But that was such a significant change to the game, because it's basically taking a position of the game and a part of special teams and altering it significantly, that if you were to throw that in the middle of a season, it could very well change what some teams are strong at, what some teams are weak at, and give perhaps unfair advantages, etc. It would just put a weird feeling on that season. It would maybe have to give it an asterisk when you look back in the annals of NFL history and say, oh yeah, that one season there was that weird change in the middle of the season. And that's what I feel like is occurring when a patch that changes as much as it does, because not only are people looking at the fact that the Demon Hunter Marauder set is going to be drastically different, the Rancor set is getting a few changes, the monks are actually going to be more powerful, but you have to look at the fact that Greater Rifts themselves are being so massively redesigned with this patch that the leaderboards, which correct me if I'm incorrect, they are developed based on what the standard is inside of a Greater Rift. So when you change that, you completely null and void all results on the leaderboard prior to that moment, because there's a new standard. And if you only give 3 weeks, if you're only giving 3 weeks for people to compete on that new standard, it could end up running afoul of there being enough time for things to shake out the way that they should when you have a 5-month season preceding that time. It just boggles my mind.
Yeah. But of course, they have to contend with the fact that they said they'd give us 30 days notice. Before the show, Leviathan made the good point that why didn't they just give us the 30 days notice earlier so that they could close it in time. And I guess we still haven't mentioned that their reasoning for releasing the patch before the end of the season is that they said there's some technical issues. They think there might be problems if they try to release the patch right at the start of the new season as was planned. They think they can do that for Season 3, but they're just not ready for it, I guess, right now. But yeah, so we were talking about like what are the alternatives to this, screwing up the balance of season one. Um, and yeah, Leviathan, you'd said, well, yeah, maybe I should let you speak for yourself.
Oh, the one thing that we had kind of quickly talked about, and then we're like, oh, we should save this for the podcast, was the fact that it's a PR thing to me at this point. When I look at it, when I logged onto Twitter, it actually ruined the rest of my day because I admit that I'm like way too invested in this at this point. I can't look back because I've sunk so many hours into these leaderboards and so much like mental thought and I don't know, just too much.
Well, you're preaching to the choir, I think.
Yeah,
they get you.
Hopefully. So I mean, like, I hope people are with me when I feel like it's cheats a bit of the goals and like the accomplishments that we've taken from this season so far, and with it feeling that way, that's one way to say like, okay, that public relation, you're kind of pissing off that percentage of the player base. The other flip side to it could be that instead of putting this patch out early, totally eschew that whole idea of this 30-day warning and just end the season. Like, to me, basically, the way I'm now looking at it is when this patch drops, season one is done. Season one, as it legitimately existed to me, is over because so many things are going to change that whatever the results look like at the end of the season, they do not reflect the time that was spent in season one. And so the way to combat that could just be end season one next week. Screw the 30-day warning. How many people are really going to be upset? I've seen so many people saying, I'm done with season one. It needs to be over. So why not just end it?
I'm gonna start a straw poll because I'm interested in what viewers might think about different options. Because I think there's also a third option, which would be delay season 2 starting.
Yeah, I think that would. I think most people would probably vote that would be the worst possible outcome, that they could have. Is delaying season 2, like having an actual. That's like one of the biggest fears when they announced when season 1 would end. Everyone started, preaching about fire and brimstone. Oh well, if they're ending season 1 on February 3rd, that means we should get season 2 by April. So I think that would be like one of those worst fears came true, and from just a few days worth of feedback, when every other person is saying, "Oh, well, we're all doomed because season 2 isn't going to make it until at least March," that would be maybe it's that feedback that they got is one of the things that they decided to push the patch into season 1 instead of delaying season 2.
Yeah, maybe. Well, there's a straw poll in the chat. If you guys understand what we're talking about, let us know, and we'll report what you guys are saying. But the options are cut off season 1 early, which is what Leviathan thinks they should do. Implement the patch during season 1, which is what they are doing, regardless of what we think. And then the option 3 is what I just proposed, which would be just delay season 2 so they can get the patch in after season 1. But of course, yeah, this won't be an issue, according to them, for season 3. Looks like
Right,
something
so
they
it's
just weren't
only
ready
temporary.
For.
Because I know another concern too that should possibly be mentioned is they want to keep the time between the end of a season and the beginning of a season short. And so even if it stands to reason that there are some things going on behind the scenes that we don't know about that prevent season 2 from starting up right now in January, and that's why they picked that February date. I think it's still okay to have a 3-week non-seasonal period where people can deal with the stash-based stuff, deal with just playing on their characters in a non-season format, like melding everything together, seeing what gear they got from season that now works on their abandoned non-seasonal characters from way back in last summer, and just give people some time to mess around. Because I feel like at this point, there is that fear we don't want season 2 to come way too late. Like if for whatever reason ending season 1 now and putting patch 2.1.2 in leads to all these need for hot fixes and stuff, and then the season is super delayed, that would suck. But I don't think anyone would be upset with early end to season 1, because then it means you could take a break too. Like, to be honest, you could just do something else, but also just mess around and do non-competitive, non-whatever, have fun type stuff for 3 weeks.
Yeah, I think maybe another option. Well, first, a question to you guys: do you feel like most players think the current seasons are too long, just right, or too short?
Gotta go with too long.
Yeah, I think the majority of everything that I've at least heard from feedback is that season 1 has been far too long.
Yeah, I've seen the same thing. I just want to check with you guys. I feel like one of the reasons it has to be too long right now is because they want to release patches with the new seasons, and they can't do patches any faster than I guess about 6 months. It seems like it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
What if the seasons lasted, 3 months or so, and then for 3 months they had little mini seasons that lasted anywhere between a couple weeks to a couple days, like the races they do in Path of Exile, and then they would implement the next patch right before the next big season started.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think that'd be awesome. If you have, so let's say you have like that big 3 month season. It's your fresh restart. It's your level up a character, work on your Paragon goals like Nineball has, for instance, and just get into that length, like that dedication to one character for the length of whatever the season is. And then you get into what you might be able to call a racing season, where it's, show up for a week and you are on this one character for a week and you just play and play and play. And you do that for a couple of weeks until the next patch is ready. I feel like as long as there's something that's refreshing people's want to get out there and do stuff, then you could, I mean, not forever, you could prolong people's penchant for wanting updates.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, or even if they did something along the lines of like a 3-month season and only every other season had a new content patch, or any actual new changes or anything along those lines, that'd be something I'd be okay with.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
overall shorter seasons would be welcome.
Mhm.
Well, the straw poll results are 61% agree with Leviathan. Cut off season 1. And then 25 say do what they're doing, and 14%, only 2 people like my idea, so forget that. Looks like you're on the right track, Leviathan.
And I mean that's just it's just the temperature of the community, it seems to me, and I think we've all been hitting it on the head to some degree in the last couple of minutes. There's definitely a feeling out there that season 1 was a test season, and so that's why I also feel kind of weird, like getting really up in arms about this, because at the end of the day, like we knew some crazy things were going to happen this season, and we saw it with the exploits and the fixes and things like that. So this patch coming in, you can kind of put it in line with that mode of thinking of, well, it's just a test season. But I mean, you put season 1, like I would almost prefer they said PTR season, even though it's not PTR, or season 0, and just say that this is, just don't make it real. When it became real in my head, like that was when I committed, and that was why like I felt the exploits hurt me as much as they did. That's why I feel like this changing of the game in the 11th hour is hurting me as much as it is, just because there's this real thing of it existing. And when I want to go and point back to like, this is what I dedicated 5 months of my life to, and these are the results, and then people are well, what about those ancient items, or what about this or that? Then it's like, damn, that takes a lot of the wind out of your sails.
Yeah.
I do also like something that we've talked about before, but Grizzard is saying here in chat, and I think this is something that the community has kind of just been screaming about since season 1's, like it was like just a couple days after season 1 started, people are asking, well, how long is the season? And if we go how many months before we actually get a pseudo end date for how long the season itself would be, that a lot of people really want to know, how long is the season? How much do I need to moderate my time or dedicate to the game to know when it's going to end? I know that you say you're going to give us a 30-day notice before the season ends or anything along those lines, but 3 months, 4 months, 7 months, I'd like to have some sort of idea before we get in starting.
Yeah, and even I was listening to Shattered Soulstone, which is another great Diablo podcast that's out there, and I think it was Jen who was talking about her experience with playing this season, and the fact that she said she went pretty hard early on just because she didn't know what the length of the season was going to be, and then she felt by what ended up being mid-season, like 2 to 3 months in, she was burnt out to the point where she didn't want to play that much anymore because she thought, I have to get my time in early because it's going to be over relatively soon. And I think that is sort of one of the ideas we preached previously, that when you know exactly what the length will be, you can better adjust your kind of energies towards this season and say, like, I know I can take 3 weeks out of 4 weeks every month because there's going to be, I want to allot 9 months to the season, or sorry, 9 weeks to the season, and it's a 3-month season. 9.
Yeah,
Something
I'm
like
sure.
that.
I'm sure all players would like that. And so yeah, speaking of ancient items, we had talked a little bit before the show about some ideas related to the auction house, because Rob Pardo had done an interview that we might touch on here in a second, talking about how maybe they didn't need to remove the auction house. And we were talking about how, what if they made it so only ancient items were bind on pickup? And it seems unlikely that they'd bring the auction house back, but maybe you could still trade other items and just let the third-party websites sell those items. But the best items are always going to be the ancient items, and those you'll still have to farm for. So casual players can trade. They're not buying items on third-party websites anyways. Serious players might buy some items to get a boost, but to get the best items, they'll still have to farm for them. And maybe this can be straw poll day, because I'd really like to see what people in chat say about that.
Yeah, I'd be curious. I have a feeling they'll be for it because I do see a lot of pro-trade sentiment still perpetrating the community and all around. And like I was saying before we started, that I've always been anti-trading because I love being pro-hardcore, and that's with a lowercase h, of just like grinding it out and kind of having the achievement of a well-geared character comes solely from just playing the game a ton. But actually, when Archon brought this up, I actually really liked it as an idea because it kind of gives everyone their piece of the pie. It allows, I don't know if you even mentioned this yet, Archon, but just the fact that people who may not want to invest a ton of time in the game, it gives them a chance to kind of get to those higher power levels earlier on. And therefore, they don't have to feel like they need to sink 50, 60, 70 hours in before they can be a really powerful and strong character. They just trade for their items, dink around, have fun, and that's it. And then the more invested players will, like you said, maybe they'll buy a bit of an advantage, but it ends up evening out anyways because everyone still has to grind for that next tier that's going to be bind on pickup. Yeah, I like it as a compromise.
Yeah, I personally don't mind the no trading. I was so happy when they made legendary items bind on pickup, but yeah, since then I've seen a lot of cries for trading, and I think that's a big. It is a lot of fun playing console and being able to be like, hey, the other day I found this, you can have it. And yeah, the purpose of the ancient items was to give the serious players something to do when they're putting hundreds or thousands of hours into the game, and it's kind of, I think, further facilitate the two different playstyle design philosophy.
Yeah, I was a big proponent for wanting to keep some form of trading in the game. And I was sad to see the auction house go, even though I wasn't one of those people that made thousands of dollars on it or anything. I went into Reaper of Souls, I think, with maybe like 45 million gold, on my hardcore character. So it's not like I was, abusing it or anything along those lines. But I just enjoyed that aspect of the game of being able to trade or find something or hunt for that one, knowing that even though I might never find this one singular perfect item, I might be able to trade for it. I might be able to find enough, chip gems to finally get myself to that point or something, equivalency from there. But the BOP aspect of it has definitely grown on me since Reaper's launch. And it's something that I definitely enjoy that aspect of it. But anything that we could do in order to kind of bring trading back into it would be nice. Because right now, even though you can still, give another player an item if you found it while they were in the game with you for a certain amount of time, it never is trading. Is how often is it that you find something that would be useful to somebody else, and at the same time they find something that's useful to you? It's one of those ones where it's not really trading, it's just giving. Because if you find something that someone else can use, you go ahead and give it to them, just being nice and friendly, and you don't really expect anything in return for that. So I guess that aspect of it is it's one positive aspect of that, but I still would prefer some form of actual trading that we can trade for crafting materials, for something along those lines, like just a commodities auction house.
I mean, it could be really cool too. Like, I'm thinking about it socially, and like as the BlizzPro clan has grown, I've been really proud of the growth, not only of the clan itself, but of the players in there too. It'd be really cool to think of sort of like these pseudo agendas. Like, if you're the leader of the clan and you really like Crusader, why would that ever happen? Then you could stock up a bunch of Crusader sets, and then as people join the clan, you'd be like, "Hey, I have a whole set of Archon. Why don't you just try, like, make a Crusader? Try this out. Like, just hand it off to them, and just convert this army of people that like totally love this class." But it just take that like and put it for any class or any situation. It'd be really cool, like as an incentive. And I don't know, maybe this could go the wrong way, and people want to join clans in order to get access to certain players and then get items from them. Or you don't even have to join the clan; you could just be friends with them or whatever. But I mean, I guess again, the harm is that it's still not ancient items, right? Like, there's always
Yeah.
a better tier, anyways. So why not let those items just float around freely?
Everyone now knows Steven's secret plans for what he's going to turn the BlizzPro clan into: Crusader Master Race.
We're changing it to Crusader Pro.
Oh no. Well, the early results actually show pretty even split. I was expecting a lot more people to say yes to our idea, but only 54. To be exact, 15 yeses versus 13 no's. So, well, not 16 yeses, but a pretty small sample, but still, yeah, maybe not quite as popular as I anticipated, at least.
Yeah, I'm curious, like, what are the no reasons that we could speculate? Like, why would people be against this?
Let's see. Well, we have a lot of chat going on, so we could probably fish some out here.
I know one of the obvious ones is even if you can't trade and get the best items in the game, it's going to lead to some form of exploitation. There's some, either it's going to be bringing back gold farmers, or bringing back account hacking. That's something you don't see anywhere near as much that you do with classic Diablo, where people are always talking about how their accounts are getting hacked. Now there's really no reason to hack someone's account. You can't steal anything from them. But even in that scenario where there was some form of trading, even if it's just in between items and you couldn't even trade for their gold, you could still rob someone and take everything that they have in order to trade up from there. Best item in the game, but still, like, a furnace is a furnace. Whether it's an ancient one or not, a furnace is still probably going to be better than most other ancient weapons, for those particular classes, because of the power of the affix, not so much because of the weapon damage.
Right. No, yeah, definitely there would be a few clear advantages to allowing sort of the freeness of it. So I guess maybe it would need a couple of iterations before it would sit properly within what the devs are intending to do with items and what the community kind of wants out of trading as they might perceive it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wonder if it's something that they talk about.
I don't know. I feel like of the panels that I've watched recently, like the PlayStation Experience and some of the ones at BlizzCon, people do still ask about trading and whether it's going to come back. And the party line has seemed to be that they kind of like where the game is at in terms of their ability to throw items at us because there's no trading. Like, they can up those drop rates and kind of dole out gear a little bit more. And I guess their compromise too is the fact that when you're playing in a game with other players, you can trade, in quotes, because you get that 2-hour window to give it to whoever's in your game. So that kind of encourages the multiplayer. So it hits another nail on the head with the hammer for them too, encouraging multiplayer and whatnot. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true. Might make a little bit of a mess.
indeed.
Let's see. Do we want to talk a little bit about the Rob Pardo interview?
I was actually just going to
Yeah.
prompt you on that because there was
Yeah.
that point you made up, or you brought up, made up. You're just making up points.
There was no interview. We're just making this all up.
Mhm.
Secrets out. But that point that you brought up about what Rob Pardo possibly wanted the auction house to stay as, or to become if it stayed.
Yeah, I guess he said that Josh Mosquera was the biggest one pushing to get rid of the auction house, which we all love him for, of course. But Rob Pardo said he was advocating for just changing the design. Like he made the point that I hope that my I'm dropping frames on. Okay, I think we're back. My OBS is having some issues here, so I apologize for delays on the stream there. Anyways, he was pointing out that the World of Warcraft auction house works really well because it's designed better than the Diablo auction house was. And I don't think he went into much details, but I mean, the biggest difference, I think the notable difference with the WoW auction house is that you can't buy the best items. Which is kind of what brought us into the discussion of what if you couldn't get ancient items. But just speaking personally, when they announced that they were making all items bind on pickup, I thought at that point, well, they don't need to get rid of the auction house. Like the auction house will just be for commodities and for yellows, and it's not going to be that exciting. But like, there's no real need to get rid of it once they made legendaries bind on pickup.
Mm-hmm. It was kind of just like I really hate the like this term, or I don't know, idiom, whatever it is, the baby with the bathwater. But
Yeah.
I would rather think of it as kind of just like a raise and pillage and burn. Like they just wanted flat out, like no trading, no auction house. Like I feel like it had to be such a strong move because of the strong reactions that players were having to it. If you were to say bind on pickup is coming, so you don't have to worry about the auction house, I feel like people would still be worrying about the auction house just because it existed as a thing. For those people that were very, very against it and loudly against it, you know.
Yeah, and there's also Blizzard had gotten this really bad reputation for only keeping the auction house open because they were making money from it.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of helped clear their name a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
They got
A little bit.
so they got our respect again.
Exactly.
It worked out really well that Josh Mosquera became the game master, or game director, right at the same time, which of course led players to this misconception that he's the one that made all these changes, as if they implemented them immediately right as he got in. Like, as people tend to forget that changes take some time, and that wow.
They had probably started when Jay Wilson was already still there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, it's very true. I mean, it kind of worked in their favor though, because like how people talk about like brands having faces and things like that. Like he kind of ushered in the next era of Diablo, the rebuilding era, if you will. So you could clearly point to this person, and people were saying it too, like the savior of Diablo.
Yeah.
He's the Jesus of he came back to Earth and saved us. I just one thing that I did want to point, because both you guys play World of Warcraft, so when you're there, and I imagine the auction house is a big part of how people make gold, right? That's kind of the currency over there.
Yeah, especially nowadays. Garrison's combined with the auction house.
Mhm.
So I guess the one thing, when you remove real money from the equation, like say you do shut down the real money auction house, you keep the regular auction house up, what's the point at that point? Like, because you're still buying things with gold, but you can generate so much gold from something like the Boon of the Hoarder or whatever. Like, is there? I guess how do you make the economy exist if you were to still have an auction house in the way the game exists right now?
Well, I mean, that's one of the things that you'd have to do is you'd have to balance the game around the amount of gold that you can acquire. In World of Warcraft, you go and complete a quest, you get 30 gold. You kill a mob, you get 30 silver. You want to go and buy some components to build a mount. It costs 10,000 gold. It's just the level of difference between what is dropped and presented at you and what it is that you need to do for some of like the really big things is huge. There's a huge level of disparity between it that you can't really effectively farm and get that without actually leveraging the auction house in some form. And it's not just that, but these things that cost lots of gold, it's not going to another player. It's being just taken out of the economy. That even though that there is, inflation in the overall gold within the economy and a World of Warcraft server, increases over time, there are these huge sinks that take away gold, that take away a lot of gold at a time. There's things that have cost like 40,000, 50,000 gold. You have the black market auction house where you can go up to, I think it was like 1 million gold that you can actually purchase an item for, or something along those lines. So you're taking huge chunks out of an individual player's repository and removing a huge amount of gold at any given point in time, which you'd have to change the Diablo system to give yourself some sort of gold sink that you want to put money into. And that was when we first got like the little hint of ancient items in the press release, or the press kit that got pushed for BlizzCon before the panel that explained what it was. I immediately thought that this was going to be some form of upgrade system. That this is going to be, this is going to be a way to reduce all the massive amounts of golds that we've been getting because of the Boon of the Hoarder. It is going to give us something to do with all of the crafting materials that just pile up in our bags after the first couple of weeks, and all of the useless gems that we've gotten after everything is all fully upgraded to flawless royals, in our gear. But it ended up just being a new type of drop that it fulfilled a different purpose, to give you something to continue to grind for. But I felt it would have been one of those perfect opportunities that you could have made it to be just a resource sink for the game. So that way you actually have a reason to want to continue to pick up some of those blue and yellow items at the end of a rift or something along those lines. But
well, let me riddle you this though, because I feel like it will serve that function, but only for a limited time for most players, because the best way to get ancient items before you can kind of farm them up on the greater rifts will be crafting them. And obviously we know that crafted items aren't going to be the best forever, because the sets are just the droppable sets are just better at what you want to do, which is kill enemies. But they will exist for a time until you get like that perfect Ogchild's chest, or whatever set you want to craft. Ogchild's being the best, of course. You're going to be sinking quite a bit of gold and mats, because that's just going to be the best way to get those pieces ancient early on.
Though that I feel that could be a little bit just, I guess, what's a word to describe that? Like, to an experienced player, though they might not fall for it, but it might like kind of be like a hidden trap for a new player as they go and they craft something. It's like, well, it's ancient. Oh, so this item, has to be better than anything else that I can get, for something along like a chest piece or a shoulder. And it's like, well, I'm not going to complete my set because I have this ancient item, so it's going to be so much better. They might fall into this trap that just because the base stats are higher, that it is in some form better, though, because it's lacking in a fix or completing a certain set bonus. It's actually not, in that it's, I guess a little bit deceiving in that way when it comes to the crafted items, because the crafted items are mainly just stat sticks. Very few of them have any impactful affix to them to change up gameplay.
Yeah.
So maybe you're arguing for a limit to the amount that people can craft in order to stop the new player from hurting themselves, a la the blood shard limit. Set to tie that in.
Speaking really quickly to World of Warcraft 2, is one saving grace there is, even if you buy a lot of gold on a third-party website, you still can't acquire the level of gear that the top raiders or top PvPers are getting through play. You can only get subpar gear. It's still going to help you, but it's not. You can't just buy the best stuff.
There's no pay to win.
Well, yeah, not pay. Well, there's not pay Blizzard to win yet, but they actually, in the next patch, are adding a system where you can effectively buy gold from Blizzard in WoW. Which
I saw that. Isn't there like a game time thing or something like that?
Yeah, so you can buy tokens for real money that add game time, and then sell them on the auction house, with the purpose being that if you play the game enough, you can just buy your game time with gold. But, of course, it also lets players just buy that with real money, sell it for gold, and get gold with money. I mean, it's better than third party. It's better than people buying gold on third party sites because it doesn't add gold to the economy. It'll actually take a little bit out because there's an auction house cut. So I'm guessing that was their thinking, was let's just get people to buy gold from us instead of from third party websites, and we can control inflation that way. But it does, I would argue it adds a little bit of a pay to win aspect to WoW.
To a certain extent, there's not as much that you can pay to win through the World of Warcraft auction house. There's a very limited selection of BOE gear, and even then, it's not going to be, the level that you would want it to be. And a lot of times the BOE pieces are like the worst in the slot. It's better if you don't have access to rating or LFR, but if you do, you kind of look at the BOE piece and be like, well, this will pay for guild repairs for a week.
Well, yeah, I mean LFR is now I can't remember, 640.
I think so.
And you can buy 665s and even 670s, 676s on the auction house.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's not going to be a big upgrade for serious players, but for casual players, you could.
Yeah, but again, it goes back to you're talking like one piece, because there's very few BOE pieces of gear. Particular classes might only have access to like a cloak and a glove or a boot that they can actually use for that that has the BOE and the drops in the current raid tier. You can find more through doing garrison missions than you can through buying pieces in the auction house.
Oh yeah. I mean you can get 3 665 crafted pieces, and then you can get 2 rings that are 665 and a cloak that's 670 or 676, and then a few more pieces. But you could get 665s on your own doing garrisons if you played enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just goes back to what is pay to win, and at what point does it qualify as pay to win?
And that's exactly why I think kind of the idea that we threw out originally was they needed to clean house with the auction house. Clean house, I like that. Had to get rid of the whole house, because there will always be those questions of, okay, if this thing's going to stay, how much is it going to affect? I just feel like it probably caused more problems to try and fix than to just get rid of, and to make it fix in a way that was going to make sense in how much they were going to change the game come Reaper of Souls. Because Reaper changed a lot of things in terms of putting the control back in the player's hands and outside of the auction house's hands, by virtue of it just not existing.
Yeah, that is true. It's something that I don't really think that you'd be able to argue against at all, because it does save a major headache and development time not having to worry to balance things around the auction house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Another interesting point from the Rob Pardo interview, which I totally agree with him on, is he said that the problem with the auction house was not the real money auction house, but just the auction house itself, which is definitely going to upset a lot of players, because I think a lot of players, and me being a little biased, would assume that it's mostly the more casual players, thought that the only real problem with the auction house was the real money aspect of it. But I definitely felt like the real money auction house was a small issue. It was, as long as you can trade items, people can pay for power, whether it be through Blizzard or a third-party site. But of course, being able to buy your best items instead of having to find them seemed to be the real issue.
Yeah, and that kind of also ties into some of the other things that he said during the interview. I think it's like one of the reasons why he kind of fought to keep the auction house in the game, but then also he had that statement where he felt that the auction house itself hurt it, is because he felt that Diablo 3 wasn't properly tested. That's something that you can, I mean, you can go back to 2012 and look at all of the comments that people had about the beta, and kind of know that the player base more or less had that same feeling and thought on it. That's just that they didn't allow he felt that they didn't allow players to test enough of the game, and they didn't have enough players to test the game. So they didn't have an accurate gauge of the auction house, and that the first real test that they had of the auction house was when it had 10 million users.
All right.
And that at that point, it instantly was too big and too radical to make any like meaningful changes, and that it kind of ran away on its own thing, and that a lot of its problems just came down to not having an effective or a thorough testing period.
I mean, it's so true too. Think of how many issues kind of cropped up after they realized the proliferation of gear being that widespread, people being able to essentially pick and choose what fixes they wanted on their gear. I very specifically recall the first time that they really had an issue with One With Everything for monks. They said they didn't even realize like how mandatory that passive would become simply because they didn't have the auction house. So people who were playtesting, in-house at Blizzard or whoever the testers they use, they didn't have fire resistance on every piece of gear or whatever, and then realized that that's what people are going to do because it makes that a passive that strong or that much stronger. And the tie-in to that, like how it took a lot of players' choices away. So it really is interesting that because of the limited access and the fact that it was only testable up to the Skeleton King.
Yeah, level 13.
Yeah,
how much of the game is that?
And I have to wonder. I don't know if they've said yet. Cause my only thinking is why they wouldn't do a full beta was that they didn't want to give away the story before the game is released. That seems like such a horrible reason. Like we'll just risk our game doing horribly for the sake of saving the story. Well, this is me who doesn't care at all about lore, so maybe.
Yeah.
And I'm both like, how dare you?
How dare you? But this is one of those things. I guess I was actually surprised to see so much of the story in Reaper of Souls with the advent of adventure mode, because it is now that it's just you can go through and do testing. Like for the next expansion, you don't have to include anything of the story or any of the story content whatsoever. It's just here's the adventure mode, for the new zone or whatever. Go test, have fun.
Yeah, that's true.
You can completely remove mechanics testing from wanting to keep the story secret.
Yeah,
I hadn't even thought about that.
On a side note, I learned a lot about Deckard Cain today because I was writing an intro that was going to be a parody to Nicki Minaj's Super Bass about Deckard Cain, and I just didn't give myself enough time. Once I started writing it too, I realized it wasn't going to be as good as I imagined it in my head. But yeah, I didn't know that Deckard Cain was like tortured by Magda, or that. Well, I learned a lot, but that was like some more obvious stuff that I did not know.
Deckard Cain dies in D3, right?
I played Diablo for over a year before I learned that. No joke.
Wait, you're being serious?
Yeah. It wasn't until today that I realized that he only appears in Act 1. I didn't realize that he was never in Act 2. I guess I don't pay much attention to those kind of details.
They really don't give a crap about the story.
I still haven't watched all the cinematics. I was playing it on console and I was like, oh, this is cool. I hadn't seen this yet.
Oh, new content.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Min-maxing.
I was just going to say, it speaks to the different types of players that are in the game.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Spoilers. Sorry, guys. Spoilers.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
Here's one that you might not have known. Deckard Cain actually had a wife and a kid.
Yeah, they got... Oh, wait. I learned about them, too, but I don't want to give that away. If you haven't played... Is that given away in one... Yeah, they got killed by some bandits. Yeah,
that was actually in one of the books. So, yeah, very few people, I think, would know and or care.
Yeah.
Diablo has a story question mark. Exactly. No, but that is a good point. I actually hadn't thought about Nineball, the idea that they really could have done Reaper of Souls testing in adventure mode without giving away, because it was right up and they saved the Malthael fight, right? That was the only thing that was in the beta.
Yep, that was the only thing that you didn't get to see.
I think, but like Archon was saying, I think it makes much more sense to take it that far, to show that much of your game and release a great game versus have it all be secret and then potentially release an awful game. I mean, they're like still recovering from that PR.
Definitely.
Yeah. Not only from the PR, but they're tied down to a lot of those decisions that they probably would have done differently from the get-go.
That's an even better point, because that was the base of the game. So it almost is not, well, I mean, it's a good thing that they learned from that and did such a better beta test for Reaper, but it's almost like too little too late, because now we're playing off of the base of what was developed, when that could have really been changed if they had the bigger beta back then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the whole thing is like an underlying trend in games. Like games that were made in the 80s and 90s, they would write the whole game before they started making it. They would decide everything about the game and then just waterfall method through the whole thing and then just hope that it worked out as well as they did in their head. And then since then, like especially like late 90s, early 2000s is when they really started like throughout the entire process, you should always have a playable version of your game. You should test like every week. You should be testing it with new people, and so it seemed like a step backwards as far as. And I mean, and Blizzard's usually really good about testing their games too.
Yeah. Well, even if you want, I know people like to bring up the other game out there, PoE, Path of Exile. Their game, as far as I can tell, was actually being developed as people were just playing it. Like it was released, and they were adding their acts, as people were getting geared up and leveled up and stuff.
Yeah, because that was a game. That was one of those games that was in a beta, for a long time. Basically you had the full game access and was pretty much available to anyone that wanted to download the client to get in and start trying it out before the game itself was officially released.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's been really popular with indie game studios now. It's just, as soon as they have a playable game, they'll get people to start playing it. And I mean, it slows down a little bit because you have to make sure your game's always playable. You have to do a lot of stuff that might take a little bit longer, but yeah, I mean, it's completely invaluable to have every single time you add something your players don't like, immediately. You don't have to keep building on that. You can change it before you put any more work into it. If players really like something, you can focus more on that. And yeah, I mean, really great games have come out of that method.
And that's a good point too, because you were just saying it might slow down a little bit because the version always has to be playable, but I think it ends up working as a net for the developers because they save all that time not wasting resources on things that players may end up saying they don't like and they have to scrap anyway. So I think you come out on the plus side at the end.
Although you could mention like a game like Marvel Heroes that might have that kind of backfired on them because they did have a lot of problems early on, and because maybe they pushed the game too hard, that coupled with an early release that was probably the fault of their publisher, people played the game before it was ever really finished, and then by the time Marvel Heroes got to to be a really strong game because of the player feedback, a lot of the players had already written it off as a bad game.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's pros and cons to it, huh?
Yeah, I guess there's a thin line to walk there, I suppose.
Yeah, about releasing, how long do you wait before you release a game, when, how good enough is good or, releasable or ready, what can you do? That was something that hurt Star Trek Online a lot in the beginning. Because when the game came out, admittedly, it wasn't the best game. It was bad in a lot of aspects in the original release. But within a few updates, by the time the first year anniversary came out, it was a different game. But at that point, the damage had been done. It had horrible reviews across the board, and it just kind of been written off by most people. And it took years before it actually got any type of notoriety again.
I guess another thing to kind of throw into the ring here too is when do you do like a complete reboot too? Like I think the biggest example, at least that I can point to, is Final Fantasy 14 and how when that first released, that just absolutely rubbed everyone the wrong way. I mean, it's Square too, Square and Enix. So I mean, that's huge, right? That looks so bad, but they have won so many people back over with Final Fantasy 14 Rebirth, something like that.
A Realm Reborn.
A Realm Reborn. So like literally just taking it from scratch and saying, we're going to do this over. We're sorry. And I kind of wonder, as a game developer, maybe Archon, you could speak more towards it since you have the knowledge, or just as a company, like how fiscally, like were they making a huge risk when they decided we're going to scrap this, start all over? Because those dollars are spent. And I don't even know how much of the old stuff they recycled into the new stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's definitely the most successful reboot I can think of. I don't think that usually works very well. Because reboots backfire all the time. Like Star Wars Galaxies was rebooted and did well, at least from player feedback, it seems like it did worse. I don't know what their numbers were like. So yeah, I have no idea.
Was Galaxies itself ever actually rebooted? Because I thought they just closed it when they came out with Old Republic.
Star Wars Galaxies was bought by. I didn't play Star Wars Galaxies, so it's just for me reading the stories. But I can't. Was it bought by Sony or was it originally developed by Sony?
I thought it was originally developed by Sony.
Okay, and then it was bought by EA. Is that right?
No, I thought that SEO had it until, or SOE had it until they closed.
So yeah, basically, from what I understand about Star Wars Galaxies, is they took it from a very hardcore game where you could be like an artisan and just spend all your time doing that, and very few people were Jedis. It was incredibly hard to become Jedis.
Yes, now I remember it. Yeah, they had it. It was like practically impossible to become a Jedi, and then they nerfed it so that way like everyone could be.
Yeah, I think they didn't even have levels in the original version. And they went and added. They basically from the perspective of the hardcore player, the hobbyist that really like put their life into this game, they sold out. They said, oh, these other MMOs are doing great. Let's just take our model and make it more like what popular MMOs are doing. But popular MMOs, of course, cater to casual players, and the majority of their player base were already hardcore players because that's who it catered to. And so I think, from what I've read, I would argue that they were better off sticking with the player base they had and just catering to them. But either way, whether their numbers went up or down, the game didn't do very well in the long term.
That's interesting because, again, like pros and cons there. And the only reason I brought the reboot idea up is because you see the chatter sometimes people say like, oh, just like remake D2 HD or just go to D4 at this point. And I kind of wonder if they ever consider. I don't know if we'll ever know. I don't think the D2 HD thing was ever on the table, or maybe, I don't know. But I kind of wonder, if somewhere along the line ago they're like, you know what, maybe we should just give up on D3 and do something different, go to Diablo 4, or if they were just going to stick with the expansions, double expansion kind of plan that was laid out early on, and just realize that they could make the base of the game better by expanding upon it.
Well, when they first started with D3, they actually had 3 versions they were working on simultaneously. And there was a version that was proposed by David Brevik, the guy that made Diablo 1 and the lead developer for Diablo 2.
Yep.
Who he wanted it to be an MMO. He wanted it to be have a lot of the similar features that Marvel Heroes has right now. And Marvel Heroes probably isn't the best example to compare to because they're a much smaller studio with a smaller budget, and they have to answer to their IP. But there's a game that's coming out in Korea called Lost Ark. Have you guys seen anything?
Yeah.
Oh my god, it looks so amazing.
That thing looks insane.
It looks so amazing, and it's not going to be anywhere near as good as people think it is.
No, probably not. But just watching the trailers for it, I was like, if Blizzard had done this, I feel like they could have done such a good job with it. I feel like, and I know that just saying Diablo MMO, people are gonna, it's gonna be World of Warcraft, but I just feel like they could have been a little more ambitious, I guess. Yeah,
I could definitely agree with that because I would love to see something, with a little bit more like real world persistence in it, with some certain elements of an MMO, taken over with a obvious Diablo theme. The ultimate question would come down to like how would they have handled like a hardcore mode if they could have even converted that over into some form of an MMO, because like one of the biggest draws of MMOs is you get into these incredibly difficult encounters that you have to spend give it a lot of attempts to actually overcome, whereas with ARPG and a hardcore character, it's kind of expected that anything that you put yourself into, you have a reasonable expectation of being able to beat. You just have to know at what point that you feel that you're ready to take on that challenge.
Mm-hmm. Well, remember, weren't we even talking about, I was asking if there's ever any World of Warcraft players that had survived, a character had not died at this point, from the vanilla to now, and just how insane that would be if there was hardcore World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Yeah, hardcore World of Warcraft would not work.
They would have had a very, very boring existence.
Because you would never risk your character.
Exactly. I mean, hell, I've died while questing, leveling a character. It's just you sometimes run into a bad scenario. It's just you just have to be super careful, especially while leveling, because like 3 mobs could kill you. It's just it wouldn't work. I don't know how they would actually be able to make a hardcore type mode for an MMO, to be honest.
Yeah, but
sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say maybe the question that you should be asking as a developer is, are the limitations we're setting ourselves worth it? Like, is it better to assume there's gonna be a hardcore mode and then work around that, or is it better to make the game as fun as possible and then see if they can work in a hardcore mode?
Yeah.
Like what came first? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting question to ask. And something I was thinking too, I remember the whole idea, like the Diablo MMO, is really intriguing. And I remember even just something as simple as, I think it was Monstrous that maybe posted something on Twitter, just saying like a way to bring 8-player games back in would be like raid bosses for Diablo, like in quotation marks. These events of Ubers or whatever that are a little bit bigger than what is capable of occurring in game right now, where you need more party members because they're that harder to take down. They have that much more HP, so you need more of that DPS or whatever. And just another way to kind of mix up the gameplay offerings. Even if you don't go full MMO, it's another way. And I don't know, because you could experiment with maybe like changing the camera angles and stuff, like the same way they did it with the console. It was kind of a cool thing with the Belial fight, how they shifted that camera down and it felt more dynamic. It would be another way of kind of the theme that we're pushing, is pressing the devs to think more outside of the box.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I think all that's too late. Diablo's a casual game now. Smaller team, and they're doing well with what they got, I think.
Yeah. There's one last thing that I want to, before we change topics, going back to the Final Fantasy 14, there's an image that I saw this past week that said why Square Enix is better than Blizzard.
Yeah.
Because you have Deathwing, who had 2 years to destroy the world and failed, and then you had Bahamut, which destroyed the world in 158 seconds.
He's a better min-maxer.
Yeah,
exactly.
Blizzard just couldn't figure out how to make a villain that could destroy the world quicker.
Yeah, which is Hey, if you haven't seen it, like the Final Fantasy 14 ending cinematic, which is also kind of like the beginning cinematic for the Realm Reborn, is they actually they made a cinematic for the world ending and kind of put a story behind the reboot itself. It's really well done. It's a very interesting it's a couple minutes long. It's very, very well done.
I'll have to check that out. That sounds
cool.
Cool way of doing it.
Leviathan, you surprised me by the fact that even though you don't play the game, that you haven't seen that cinematic, with how much of a Final Fantasy fan you are.
I know. You would think it would be in my email inbox, RSS feeds, etc. I just, if I'm not going to play it, because I accepted, and this is kind of a bit of a derail, but I kind of made exceptions for the MMOs for Final Fantasy, because I know that I would not be doing this podcast or working or living if I dived into them. Like, my personality mixing with Final Fantasy that you can play forever is just not good. But
that's what I heard from all my friends that are Elder Scrolls fans, and none of them are playing the MMO now.
Really? They didn't end up taking to it as much as they thought they would?
No. So just a little side note. Yeah, it seemed like that game just didn't do as well as most people hoped.
Interesting. But no, yeah, I should check those. I guess I didn't really realize that they were out there. I didn't realize that game had cinematics, because I know like all the others do, of course, since that's a big major core part of it. But I should have realized there would be ones for. Because I played a little bit of Final Fantasy XI, and it had an opening cinematic, but I never got very far in that.
Final Fantasy XI was like my first real MMO. I played EverQuest for like 2 weeks, and that was about it.
I never even played EQ. I just FF11 was the first one for me.
I remember I rolled an Ixar, and I tried getting out of the capital city, and I couldn't find my way. I ended up falling into the canal and just swimming around too much. I think I didn't actually like get out of the city and like kill my first mob until like my second day of playing. It was so frustrating. I had no idea what I was like the you know, we go through and we make fun of people like the casual players and the noobs. Oh, you don't know what a blood shard is, type thing. That was me in EverQuest. How do I get out of this city? I don't even know what to do.
I was such a casual player when I started playing WoW. I didn't even care about leveling. I spent a lot of time just walking around and looking at stuff.
Yeah,
Embarrassing.
Yeah, then I played Final Fantasy 11, and then I dropped that for World of Warcraft.
Look where you are now.
Yeah, here I am.
Still addicted.
Yep, I wouldn't really call it addicted too much. Yesterday I didn't raid because I wanted to play with little plastic figures.
I don't know if I respect you for that or not. I can't.
Oh, the thing is freaking. It is cool. It's amazing.
Oh wow,
that's
pretty.
That is actually really cool.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I. Quick side note. I was loving WoW, but I was resenting the fact that I felt obligated to log in every day.
Yeah.
It got to the point where I didn't feel like playing, but I was playing anyways, and I was like, no, I need to only play if I feel like playing.
But I mean, I guess that shows the power of garrisons, but they had dailies previously. Were the dailies just not that strong of a pull because they weren't so central to the game?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. Garrisons are a huge part of Warlords. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things that you can do really quickly that give you a big benefit over time, so you feel like, well, I should at least get on and do like these 2 or 3 things. But then it's like, oh, but if I did that too, that'd help. And then it's like 2 hours later, and you're finally done with your daily stuff, and then you can go and do what you feel like doing. But I mean, some players love it. Like my little brother, all he does is garrison dailies, and he loves it. He just plays like an hour a day, and that's how he gears up and everything.
Different strokes for different folks, they say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would appreciate weekly quests instead of daily, because I would like to binge play 1 or 2 days a week, and I wouldn't mind, but yeah.
I think that's why people kind of like the compromise that the Hearthstone system presents, because you can save up 3 dailies and then just go in and do them, and you don't feel like you missed out on anything because you got your 3 max.
Yeah, it's nice. I might get back into Hearthstone. It's a nice little casual game.
Really good for picking up.
Yeah, for me, Hearthstone is almost like a monthly quest. I have a monthly quest to log in and get to rank 20.
To get the card back.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, for me, that's enough. I'll log on, and it's not just because I might log on, play a game here, but then I'll play like a ranked match, but then I have a daily that matches up with whatever class I left off in the arena. So I'll go through and I'll play a couple of matches in the arena and then log off and then be like, oh, I still need to get to rank 20, and then I'll log back in and then I'll be on a winning streak. And it's just, well, let me just go ahead and finish off this daily, or let's just keep going because I'm having fun. Get to like 17 or whatever before I kind of putter out.
Nice. Well, was there any other Diablo posts we want to talk about before we get to the feedback?
Nothing that I can point to. I mean, you can kind of tell that we're thin because we're doing like the variety show at this point, hitting every other game.
I guess one thing before we get into our viewer feedback is just since, this is our first podcast going into 2015, and I know, Archon, this is your last one. You're leaving us, and we're all very sad by that. But what, do you all have any like kind of New Year's resolutions for Diablo or just gaming in general about things you want to accomplish?
My original New Year's resolution was I wanted to be like really comfortable with Unity by the end of the year, but then I saw like how easy Unity was and how much I kind of already knew about coding, and so that's become more of like a early part of the year goal. Maybe by end of the year I'd like to have like a playable game that I could show off to people.
That's a really strong resolution, I feel like.
Yep. And remember, I will still be there. I will be that guy for you.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm not going to be a stranger. I'll be streaming here and there, and I don't want to lose ties with any of you guys.
Definitely not. But speaking of streams, that kind of ties into my resolution too. Like when you asked this question initially as a possible thing we might do on the show, I actually had a really hard time thinking of a good answer, just because I don't know. For me, like in Diablo, I feel like the goals kind of come as I realize what's possible, and I think maybe it kind of speaks towards how the game is developing, that I don't really know what's possible. Like there could be a crazy Crusader set coming down the line that's going to change everything, or for a different class, and I just could fall in love with that too. So for me, it's more about wanting to do something within Diablo, but that is expansive beyond the game. Like I really like how this podcast is developing, for instance, and it's a really strong tie to the community. And I like how it's sort of stretching over now to like when I stream, I get a lot of the people from the podcast that are here live right now, which is awesome. And it's just another way of continuing to build the fact that like we play games, but it's bigger than the games. It's us, like, in our struggles and kind of like the daily. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just this vibe of like, not like so sappy, like game saved my life, but I know that sometimes I can come home and like hop on clan chat and be like, man, I had the crappiest day at work, and people just hash it out with me, and that feels really good to know that those sorts of relationships are being developed through the game. So I kind of want to just build on that more this year, like maybe host, I don't know, like a get together of Diablo players in the region or something, or make it out to BlizzCon this year hopefully, and and meet more people there, and just I want to make this thing bigger than it already is.
Nice.
And how about you, Randall?
For me, it definitely still is something that I feel that I want to. It's not so much like a Diablo like resolution for me. Is I just want to get my life into like a better situation where I'm not like away from home for over 12 hours every single day, getting home at 7 o'clock and then not having the energy to do something. I want to be in a better place where I have more time to fulfill with my hobbies, and I don't have 13 things vying for 2 hours of my life, every day. And so that way I can actually devote more time, to the game, just by getting my life, a little bit more in order. And so that's probably like my biggest resolution as far as, gaming goes.
Nice.
I take that. It's positive.
That's good.
So the whole saying, I work so I can afford to play games, but I can't play games because I work.
Yeah, right. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I love that chat. Every time someone asks why I'm leaving, someone else makes up a new reason.
Yes.
Mikey said that was leaving to be a professional butterfly catcher.
I like the one from the beginning where you were going to leave to go to Antarctica to be a penguin trainer.
Oh, I didn't see that one. Darth Vader just said, "I'm going to be the best Pokemon trainer there ever was."
Mm-hmm. Going to Antarctica and being a penguin trader was actually something I wanted to do as a child, and still sits in the back of my head.
I think we talked about this because I've always really liked penguins.
Yeah,
I had like an unhealthy obsession when I was a kid.
Yep. I still have an unhealthy obsession.
Yeah. I looked into getting one as a pet, but it's not easy to do.
They are illegal in Florida.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think most of them are illegal in the U.S. because it requires a special license.
Interesting.
Well, for the after show, we could talk about something that's no longer illegal in Florida, because I heard there's a bunch of controversy going on.
Yes. My state became a little bit less stupid on Monday.
Nice. All right. Well, there's some incentive for anyone that doesn't usually stick around for the after show or watch live.
And for those people that are listening to us on YouTube, iTunes, or Stitcher at this particular segment, I'm sorry. So sorry.
I'm sorry.
But you're welcome. More than anything.
Aren't you thankful?
You're welcome. At least you get a podcast.
We give fodder for people to complain. Like, what would they do without this YouTube video going up so they can post their witty remark at the bottom?
Yes. Yes. That was probably
You're
one of
the
the
outlet.
things. That's one of the things with our last episode being up on Steven's channel for our little holiday Christmas episode. We didn't really get that much flack. There wasn't any. I guess there wasn't enough people that saw the video to hate on us. It's one of my favorite things to do is to go through and read the hate mail and YouTube comments.
Oh, hate mail's always so much fun. Oh yeah, maybe this would be a good section for you guys to let people know where they can find future episodes. I mean, I definitely don't mind them being on my channels, but just wherever you guys want to send them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably something we'll still have to figure out. Something we were discussing would be whether we would go on my stream or if we would stream key over on the Blizz Pro channel, if we'd use their YouTube or my YouTube. I mean, I want to grow my stuff, but I also don't want to like co-opt this show and make it my own thing. So we'll definitely figure it out.
Yeah, 3 months from now, I'll no longer be on the show because Steven's stolen everything and has gone mad with power.
Just be a monologue, just an hour long. Steven monologue.
No, it really grinds my gears.
I'd pay to see that.
But I think it would be safe to say that as of right now, what everyone asking in chat, and what you're probably asking yourself if you're listening to this on YouTube or iTunes or Stitcher, is we will be moving over to Steven's channel, at least for the time being. If we make any other changes from there, we will let you know.
Perfect.
Cool. All right. Well, should we get into some feedback?
Yes, let's do it.
Cool. I'll take this one from Kirk Miller, who starts out correctly by saying "sup guy." Well, "sup fellas" would have been better, but we'll take "sup guys."
Half credit.
Yeah. Partial credit. Okay. He had 3 points that he thought of while he was watching some of our episodes, and they're all great points. The first one he talks about is the issue we discussed about the emerald gem being the only gem that you put in your weapon, at least until the new legendary one for leveling. But he talks about how, why don't they just get rid of crit damage? And we actually had talked about that on an episode, but it was probably a different episode than you watched when we were talking about emeralds. And I think for the most part, we're all in favor of the idea of them just getting rid of crit damage, right? Because and for anyone who's like, why would they get rid of crit damage? A lot of problems are caused by having two stats that directly multiply each other. So crit chance and crit damage are very weak at first, but the more you get of one, the better the other becomes, and it's nearly impossible to balance. Either it's going to be worth it to stack both of them, or it's not going to be worth it to get either. And in the case of Diablo, it's very worth it to stack both of them. Hence, emeralds being the only thing you put in weapons. So we agree, Kirk. And then the second point, he talks about elemental damage bonuses, something else we've talked about on the show, where because there's so much percentage bonus to elemental damage, players feel obligated to go into a single damage type. And his solution that he mentioned was just lower the amount of bonus it gives you to elemental damage. And the problem I would see with it is that if you lower it enough that people aren't obligated to go to a certain elemental type, it's probably also not worth it to go for a certain elemental type, which means the elemental damage stat not only would be lower, but it'd also be less valuable, and then it would just become an unwanted stat.
Yep, that does tie into something that I've talked about a couple of times, is just removing elemental damage completely. Because it is if you remove crit and crit damage, elemental damage is going to be the next one, and that it's one of the biggest things that limits build diversity in the game right now, because it's pretty much, you can only use skills of a single elemental type, and that's it. Some of even though the new legendary item that they created from BlizzCon and Legendary Workshop with a ring that rotates through the elemental damage types, when they actually started talking about that it might be 150 to 200% extra bonus damage for that elemental type. It's really nice, but is that going to be enough to actually make people use multiple, elemental damage types? Or, is it just going to be, well, I can get something else that will give me the same amount of power while making all of my skills uniform?
Right. Yeah, I feel like we spend a lot of energy, at least in previous shows too, trying to think about ways that we can allow different runes to be used while still adhering to the element that we've chosen. And we kind of have never flipped the script to say, well, what if we just got rid of the whole one elemental affinity? I mean, it would definitely kill some gearing choices, and it would kill some, oh goodness, what's the word? Oh, some skills, some passives and things like that.
Mhm.
But at the same time, you could possibly create new affixes or things to replace them that operate a little more dynamically.
Yeah, because I feel that like that ring that would buff that has the rotating elemental buff would be better if you didn't already have items that buffed your elemental damage passively. Because then you would have something that would actually give you a little bit of engaging gameplay. Now it's like, well, what skills can I stack of the damage types that'll rotate through on the ring while still maintaining, like my big spender, with having all of my other items with that elemental damage buffed like way up, so that way I have kind of like a meek phase when it goes to the other skills in the ring rotation, but then I have an absolutely just devastating phase when it goes to the one element that I want.
Actually, I'm looking in chat too, and Timberland makes a great suggestion. Why not just have elemental damage, not like lightning specific or fire? Whatever. I had to think about another element. What if it was just buffed elemental damage, so that way you wouldn't need to pick or choose. You just knew that you're. I mean, I guess in the way though, isn't that just a skill buff at that point?
Yeah, at that point it's just you do 15% more damage.
Right.
Yeah, unless it didn't apply to physical skills, but that would, I guess, require entire rework of the skill system.
Yeah, it just kind of goes back to there. I'm sure that it's just a passive damage bonus. It's not really interesting, and I feel that they could come up with better ideas.
Yeah, and Kirk's third point kind of ties into this. He was just saying that he liked the idea we mentioned where you could choose the type of damage that each skill did in addition to choosing which rune. So the rune wouldn't dictate the elemental type of the skill. You would choose that yourself. And we had talked about maybe, you find a gem that you get to put into your skill, kind of like one of the original concepts of D3, and then that's what would choose the elemental type.
Mm-hmm.
Which, yeah, I guess that'd be interesting too. But it would give players more choice on the runes, but it wouldn't expand on that much by allowing you to choose your elemental type.
Yeah, and then I wonder, that's actually a suggestion that I have made on the podcast before, but it's something that I've thought about, after some time going into the whole kind of like class design that they have, and some of the comments that they've made since BlizzCon about how like the classes have like particular kits and skill sets, to kind of keep them, isolated and have them something that they can call their own. And it would be, seeing a witch doctor that's all holy damage, and then like a crusader that's all poison. It's like seeing things like that. It just would kind of break a little bit of the lore, the aspect of the character, which I can kind of see why they might not want to do that unless they limit what the different runes or what elemental types you actually had access to. Like a witch doctor might not have access to the holy rune.
Maybe if I could speculate on a reason for keeping the elemental damage, I think one benefit in general of limiting player choice is there's less there's less combinations for the developers to have to worry about balancing.
Mm-hmm.
So the more choices we give, I think the less balanced any individual choice is going to be compared to the others. The more likely you're going to create a lot of bad builds trying to find good ones, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then there's also less surprises for them to kind of have to combat if something becomes too powerful or whatever.
Yeah, and it gives them one more tool to balance with, I guess, if, this build's really powerful and it's the one fire build. Okay, we can just nerf some fire damage bonuses here and there.
Mm-hmm.
No, so I guess, that's kind of one of the things that had come out of the Legendary Workshop was, kind of the priorities of the players versus the priorities of the developers, and how those two things need to meet as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's so fun, like reading forum posts by gamers who are wearing their developer hat, and because the gamers' mindset on changes for the game is always, add all these really cool things to the game. Like, it usually doesn't take account for how different features are going to affect the underlying balance of the game or affect other features. And from, I think, a lot of players' standpoint, they're just bewildered at, I can think of so many awesome ideas. Why can't the developers think of any of these awesome ideas? Just because they don't have like that deep relationship with the game that the developers might have.
This is true.
Mm-hmm. That is like one of the traps that you have, that, not saying that they are, but when you kind of have an echo chamber and everyone has a similar mindset and you're going through and you're developing something or, getting ideas, that you can't break out of that mindset in order to take like an objective look at it, or because you're so ingrained within a certain way, there's certain ideas that might not come to you, because of, what you've kind of got yourself into.
Yeah. Yeah, when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Yes. Moving on to our next piece of feedback. This one came in from Edward, and he wanted to go through and ask, do you think Diablo 3 will ever have a microtransaction store? And this is one of those very, argument-leading conversations, because you'll go through and be like, because there's some players, like I've actually asked this question before about like a DLC or microtransactions, just because I think this actually even came up recently on the forums that how are you actually going to keep the servers going, now that you have no income other than just sales? Before you had the auction house to maintain server upkeep. What are you going to do in order to make sure that the servers stay alive and that they're paying for the production of the game, to give us, better content? And, a lot of people have suggested microtransactions and such, and Edward actually wanted to go through and say just something simple like transmogs. Just something that you can make your character look cool, that you could have to pay real money for. It doesn't impact gameplay. It doesn't make it pay to win, and it still gives people something to spend money on that could go towards the upkeep or, further development for the game.
Yeah, I would be for it if they were hiring new artists to fulfill that role. I would be against it if they were using current artists to make some extra money.
And go further on that.
I just mean because if you're gonna take the artist's time and put them onto pay-to-win cosmetics, then you're taking their time away from other things. So I think that would probably also lead to like lazier legendary design and slower implementation of newer content.
All right, so you're valuing kind of the resource that is time, and the amount of projects that are there. If they're adding another project but not adding more people to complete the project, then you may lower quality across the board by adding what you think is a cool idea.
Yeah, I mean, as long as the money that we're spending is going into the game and we're not, paying for the extra content by losing content somewhere else.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Because I think when that question came into the inbox, I liked it straight away just because more is good. I always thought, I was like, more is more because more. But when you put that perspective on it, then yeah, there's only so much. I guess there's not. I'm like trying to say it better than you did, but you said it the best. You just want to make sure that money, if it's generating more money, that it's being used in a way that kind of pays the player back for spending that money, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm in agreement.
All right. Anything else on that email?
Oh no, that was it.
Cool. You want to grab one?
Cool. I will grab this one from. Oh man, I'm gonna murder this name. Tapuika. Tapuika. Let's go with that. From New Zealand.
Ooh.
Very exotic.
Oh, I like this one.
Yes. So he wrote into the show saying, catching up on some old podcasts and getting back into the game, which is always awesome. Blood shards, the issue of getting too many at once. This is something we've brought up previously in multiple episodes. And when I say we, I mean me, of course. This is my soapbox. You guys have been in agreement to some degree, I hope.
Yeah.
I believe.
No.
No.
Less blood shards. 20 blood shard limit.
20 blood
Should only no. Yes, 20 blood shard limit. You need 25 to buy something. Perfect system. It'll make the player go searching through the game to try and find what do I have to do to get those other 5.
One legendary potion, incredibly rare, allows you to hold 5 extra blood shards. But healing potions hurt you instead of heal you.
Oh my god. When can I play this version of the game?
Sign me up.
2.2.
Oh, I'm dying. All right, let's this is a very serious and good suggestion here from Tapawika. So he says a solution to that problem of getting too many blood shards at once would be that it would be like WoW, where the excess go into your mailbox. And then to support the reasoning for there being a 500 limit, he states that they should just be temporary in your mailbox, so they would only last in there for 1 to 3 days. The number is up for debate, and this will avoid the inconvenience of dealing with that rare occasion where you have too many that drop at one time. But it also allows you to not have that terrible feeling of I have to go out of town, in town, out of town, in town to pick them all up. He said that this could include other items that have caps, but he can't think of any right now. And that is the suggestion.
Genius.
I like it.
I don't know why we didn't think of this.
Yeah, it is interesting, though. I mean, there are some definite flaws in the system that, you just what you would expect from, our player base. Someone goes through, they play the game, they don't spend any of their blood shards. They easily rack up 2,000 or 3,000, within like a single day's worth of playing. And then they don't log on for a day or two, forget when it was that they had to check to spend all of them. They all get deleted, and then obviously it is Blizzard's fault, and they should extend the lockout or the timer for them for another week to accommodate them, because they can't be forced to play the game every X number of days to use all of their blood shards.
No, yeah, that's a good point. There'd have to be some intuitive way to tell the player that they have blood shards in their bank.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it could be like a message when you log off, but that could be kind of annoying, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And even just going through and, how much would that actually increase, the database handling in the back end? Because even you might think that that's going through and doing something simple, but now it is a separate currency kind of tab that it has to keep track of, that's going to be happening to almost all active players. Then not only has to keep track of the quantity that they have sitting in the mailbox, but it might be spread across 50 different rifts, so they now have 50 different messages of different varying amounts of blood shards that it will have to add back into the other currency when they actually extract it. But then it has to have a timer that's keeping track of when it was actually logged and then when it needs to be deleted, and all these other things and checks and balances to take that. And then on the other side, there has to be backups of all of that information, just because it's a server environment. So everything that happens is going to be duplicated 5 or 10 times, for just the backups in the system, and how much extra that will then happen when you times it by 3 million, 4 million players.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Still like the
idea.
It's one of those things that even if it takes just a couple kilobytes of space, you're talking about gigs and terabytes worth of information once you scale it all the way up.
Yeah.
All right, then we just go the other direction. Blood shards have a 10-second time limit, and if you don't spend them right away,
go. Just sprint to Kadala.
I gotta go fast. You don't even know what you're buying. You're just clicking frantically.
Yeah.
I'd be glad to be a wizard.
Right?
Teleport.
Mm-hmm.
But no, that's a good point. Again, kind of the same cool idea from the community, but then developer side. What does it cost? And not even just cost dollar signs, but what does it cost in terms of space and
signing? That comes down to dollar signs,
and that's
having
true
the
too.
hardware, having the hardware to support it. That's one of those ones where they constantly talk about in World of Warcraft. While your basic backpack is still only 16 slots, It's just because it would require a massive system overhaul in order to go and increase that thing the way that it's coded, and how much additional resource, system resources it will take up when you're talking about 7 million players. But then, not just 7 million players, but then, like 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 or 15 characters times 7 million players.
I wonder if that was part of, not that in particular, but if this whole idea of the kind of the background noise is part of the holdup. Because I don't know if either of you guys remember, there was a time when we got a blue post that said there's going to be a reworking to the way that gems and commodities were handled, that there would be some auto pickup and they'd be in a whole different system so they weren't filling up your bag, etc. And we never saw the fruits of that labor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they haven't talked about it.
That one is probably just, for what it is that they want to do, that is a major system overhaul, because you're having to go through and change something that is an item into a currency. Is basically the way it is. You're having to redesign it, from being a gem to essentially being a blood shard. And then having to then change all of that on the back end of the database and put that into the game.
Maybe an expansion thing.
Mm-hmm.
Guess we'll see. Well, I think those were all of our straight feedbacks. They didn't have an item, is that right?
That's it, yeah.
Where were you guys? We were gone for 3 weeks.
You did have a couple items.
Oh, no, sorry. I said those are the feedbacks that did not have items coupled with them.
Mm-hmm.
3 weeks were gone, and we get 3 emails.
Were you guys like taking holiday breaks? What is this?
Mm-hmm.
All Diablo all the time.
Yes, please go through and send us your feedback, your ideas, or your complaints. We also will read those too, and send them over to westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com.
Yeah, since I'm not going to be here next week, send in a lot of complaints.
About Archon.
Yeah.
I think last episode we actually asked people to send things about you.
And I think Archon hate mail would be a good theme of next week's feedback, actually. That would, and I can listen from Twitch chat.
Yeah. There you
down.
go.
All right, send in all your
He asked
Archon.
for it, so.
I'm asking for it.
Mm-hmm.
Hate mail's always fun. Make it up if you don't have enough hate in your heart.
I like that.
That's what the internet runs on.
Hate requires blood to survive.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And we're limited to 500 blood shards to feel that hatred.
Full circle.
There it is.
All right, let's get into some items of the week. Let's see, we got Jeremy sent in this puzzle ring from the console, which I really appreciate. He took a very sexy screenshot from the console version.
Mm-hmm.
Is that built into, like...
I was just going to say, it's easier now than it ever was before, because they have, at least with the next-gen stuff, they have the share button, at least on PS4. You could share it to your Twitter or something, and then you get an image you can throw around on the internet there.
Nice.
Yep.
A little bit of knowledge there. He got this puzzle ring, which was a big upgrade for him over his Stone of Jordan. Well, according to the interface, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And 485 dexterity, I think. 7% attack speed, perfect 50 crit damage, and I think a perfect 6 crit chance. The image is a little blurry.
Looks like 0.0% crit chance.
It does look like 0 crit chance. That's too bad.
Didn't know it could roll that low.
Yeah. Yeah, that's as far as puzzle rings go.
It's
about as good as it gets.
Perfect.
Yeah.
What was really curious to me was the I was actually looking at the Stone of Jordan on this, and it's like missing all the affixes that make it a Stone of Jordan.
Oh yeah, it got completely taken apart. I wonder, it's level 70. I wonder if that's
maybe that's just how they roll on console.
Yeah, maybe console was like preemptively trying to balance rings.
Oh, you know what it is? I think I just figured it out. I think the because it's socketed with the Bane of the Powerful, which is it gives you that elite. I think it then also added what the normal elite damage would be to that socketed value.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's interesting. It doesn't do that on the PC, does it?
No, they're separate.
No.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Next one comes in from Virus. I'm guessing on the pronunciation there. It's a Devastator with about 2,300 damage. Perfect roll on fire skill damage. 10% damage affix contributes to 2,300, and then 726 int. So, grats. We only got 4 items, so you all made it if you sent in last the last 2 weeks.
It's a very tough cut.
Yeah.
I think this one had the story too that this guy was trying to get a furnace, I think, and just got tired of it, so crafted this and it ended up being all right. If this is the one I'm remembering.
Yes, I think you are right. Good job.
So I like that side story to it at least, where it's like, you know what, can't find it, so I'm gonna make my own way.
Yeah.
Go a different route.
Good job. The backstory was more important there. Yeah. All right. Next one came in from Dan. He got sent in a con chest that had